The James Show Podcast.
And here we are trying to cover what all happened at the No Kings protest because, a lot of us were busy on Saturday. I've got kiddos and a family and job, and most people have a career and stuff. And so the turnout, in the big cities, it was huge. And I'm going to be honest with you. Judging by the size of their protests, I think Boston's going to go Democrat in the next election, y'all. I'm really concerned about losing that. All right, a couple more pieces of audio, though, because jokes aside, let's see what we can learn from this. Here's another good one. Just the takeaway here is so fun because there's this new genre of sort of social media reporting, and the hero in this genre is the black guy in a MAGA hat. Because if you put a black guy in a MAGA hat and run him out to a boomer, old white liberal, magic happens. Just absolute magic happens. I don't even know Hang on. I don't even know what protest this was, by the way.
You know what's the shame of all this?
What's the shame of all of it?
Black.
What does my color got to do with it?
It has a lot to do with...
Tell me what.
Because he hates non-white
Really?
people.
Show me.
Non-white people.
Show me.
If he was such a great
Please
guy...
show me, sir. Please show me, sir.
You know
Please
what
show
they
me.
keep saying?
Show me the proof of that.
They keep saying? They keep saying...
Sir, please show me the proof of that.
The Republicans keep saying that he...
You're never going to get rid of this man.
No, I know.
Hey.
He's messed
There's...
So I just love that first... You know what the problem is?
You know what's the shame of all this?
What's the shame of all of
black.
Oh, man. I enjoyed the No Kings protest. I enjoy the fact that, you know what? You're so upset about the results of the last election and the policies that are being implemented that you're going to go ruin your own Saturday. You know what? Go ahead. Go ruin your own Saturday. Don't spend time with your family or your friends or with your hobbies or taking care of your house or getting your car fixed or whatever. Go whine about fascist. So I want to play the rest of that John Cusack clip. He was at the No Kings protest in Chicago. Hey, listen to this whole thing.
This is your city. What do you see happening to your city right now?
Everyone knows the score, right? The authoritarians divide and conquer, and they create an other, and then they pick on it, and then pick on the person and harass them, jail them, and that's all used as a distraction so they can steal as much as they can, maintain power, right? We all know history, so that's what he's doing, and we have masked goons roaming the streets with hiding their faces, abducting people.
What is the most upsetting headline for you? When you see something in the news, does it hit you in your gut? Does it hit you in your heart?
It's all upsetting. Seeing sort of a fascist authoritarian, seeing that sort of cosplay that the right wing has been fooling around with for so long, seeing it kind of devolve into the real thing is predictable, but deeply saddening.
You're a storyteller. What is the story of Chicago?
Go to hell.
Is that the message from Chicago?
Yes. What's interesting is that he doesn't understand that all the labor rights around the world came from this town, this place. So if he thinks this place is going to be a fascist hub, no chance.
All right, so if you are one of the people who make your living with social activism, with political activism, you know you can't keep your base revved up on an issue just at breakneck level of emotions for more than about 3 months, maybe 6 months at the most. And so I don't know if you probably put this together before. That's why they got to cycle them out. We'll do an immigration protest today, and then in 3 months we'll do a Palestine protest, and then in 3 months we'll do a protest for gun control, and then in 3 months we'll do a protest for, well, we don't have anything. Let's just do another No Kings. We can fit that in anywhere. And so you'll see them cycle through. Then it'll be Ukraine, and then they'll get back to immigration and griping about ICE, and then it'll be back to some sort of race grievance, like a BLM protest. And so they have to kind of keep cycling them out. And I think that's really the only thing we're getting out of this process is they got to keep them raged up, because it really only lasts for about 15 minutes if you don't keep the cycle going. And we saw that Because earlier this year, one of the biggest things that had all these same people so outraged that they were firebombing dealerships and Kia and Teslas and doing all that damage, they stopped. Didn't they stop? That didn't last very long. That was what? Something that happened for a month, 2, maybe 3? Are they still mad at Elon? What happened to Kia and Teslas? What happened to that? It's just a phase. They're all just phases.
I got behind a Tesla on the 15 and it was like, don't blame me. I bought this car. And I was like, oh, remember 10 minutes ago they were burning Tesla dealerships and spiking their tires and keying Teslas and stuff. And I'm like, are we just, but here's what I want to say to people. So we're done with Elon. But by the way, like, how do I explain this to future generations? Like, what happened? There's this guy who's a genius from South Africa. And he came here and he made an electric car. Oh, they hate electric. No, they love electric cars. Oh, okay. And then what? Well, he was a genius and he built electric cars and they love the guy. But then what happened? Well, he bought Twitter. Yeah. For what? For free speech. Oh, okay. So they love the guy more. No, now they're angry. Why are they angry? He just opened up the thing. Well, they didn't want to admit that they used Twitter to do whatever the they wanted, and they hated free speech. They just wanted their speech, but he opened up. So anyway, then he started a department called Doge, where he was going to save taxpayers a whole bunch of money. Oh, they must have loved that. No, that made them more angry. Really mad. What do you mean? They started burning Teslas. Wait a minute. I thought they loved the environment. Yet they do. Okay, but then what? So what happened? Oh, nothing.
Nothing. They were forgiven.
But how long were they burning this? Oh, like 15 minutes. Yeah. And they were done.
Mike Sorelli on the James Show, News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP. Welcome to the show, Mike Sorelli. Let's talk about there was a meeting that happened last week. We're expecting a future meeting in Budapest with separately Zelensky and Putin. Are you smelling a ceasefire?
I think it's highly unlikely. I think it's going to be a long path. Two guys that very much have no love lost for one another. And you have to understand ceasefire and peace treaties don't take a linear path. You can take 5 steps forward only to take 10 steps back. So it's going to be a war of meeting each other's requirements and conditions. And that is probably going to be a lengthy process. I think, I said this on another hit. Don't expect this to be done probably in the next 3 months. It may take 6 to 8 to 12 months to finally reach a peace settlement.
Well, I doubt the war is going to last forever. So you're expecting something more along like an 8-month window, maybe a year before we get this thing wrapped up?
It could be. And again, I wish I had a crystal ball to foresee this. You've got to look at it from both sides. Putin wants to end this war as much as Zelensky does. Economically, they're feeling the hardship. He's lost support at home from the Russian populace, and Zelensky at the same time can't endure the punishment that the Ukrainian people are taking. But Zelensky is unwilling to give territory, and that's where President Trump is leaning on Zelensky to come to the table with something realistic, not a red line in the sand that it's no territory or nothing.
I'm kind of surprised no one's gotten assassinated yet. That seems to happen a lot in the Eastern European theater of conflict. Am I just too influenced by movies?
I think to eliminate Putin or to eliminate Zelensky would create a martyr out of them. And that could potentially have negative impacts of prolonging the war by galvanizing the other side. So usually the smart call is to leave the players on the board, allow them to negotiate rather than galvanizing their populace.
We're talking with Mike Sorelli, a former Navy SEAL, and now with Overwatch. So when we see all the conflicts around the world, does it help that we see Iran behaving and now Gaza's sort of calming down and the Houthis are sort of calming down? Does that put pressure on Ukraine and Putin to come to some sort of agreement, or do they not care?
You're absolutely right. So view it as multiple spotlights were shining around the world, and now this one spotlight. And I'm not saying the spotlight has come off of the Hamas-Israel conflict, especially with what we're seeing in Israel ramping up attacks due to violations of the ceasefire. But a lot of those spotlights are now convening on Ukraine, Russia. And James, I'm sure you're tired of war. The GWOT, the Global War on Terror, kicked off when I was 23. We've had war ever since. The world is tired of war. We would want nothing less than to see the end of this and for every nation to focus on their people and the economies.
Yeah, I theoretically, I would like for the wars to end, but I got to tell you, it hasn't really affected my life a whole lot personally. So, the apathy on this side of the pond is almost understandable that there's not more of an outcry to do something about this because, aside from our taxes and our dollar being inflated with deficit spending, the negative consequences on this war is not what most wars have meant to the home populace through all of human history until recently. We have a very antiseptic view of war in the 21st century.
Oh, the joy and benefits of being an American following the conflicts. You're absolutely right. And we often are not, when I say we, the majority of our populace is never truly touched by the war. Yes, maybe prices on groceries go up, maybe gasoline goes up due to the impacts of these wars. But the American people are somewhat insulated from these things going on. I think for those of us that fought them, we know their impacts, and we especially don't want to pass those things on to the younger generation.
All right, Mike Sorelli, tell them about the work you do outside of the James Show.
Oh, where to start? So I'm the Chief Talent Officer of Overwatch Mission Critical. We are a premier provider to the data center industry, predominantly in the build phase. The data center industry, while lesser known, is finally hitting the limelight, the media. And this industry is growing at a rapid rate, almost recession-proof, or at least I'm cautious to say that. Additionally, number 9 leadership speaker in the world, giving keynotes on the road pretty much 300 days out of the year. And then a correspondent for several news networks on geopolitics and military affairs.
All right, thank you very much for your time on the James Show. Mike Sorelli, appreciate it. You go to weareoverwatch.com for his website. That's always cool talking with a former Navy SEAL. Because you have in the back of your mind, it's like, if I say something wrong, he could probably kill me with his pinky. So I might want to get it all right and not screw this up. Okay, coming up next on the James Show, and if you have some more No King story to tell me, I'll take more calls on that if you want. But I kind of want to move on because we're having a run of homicides this month in Dallas specifically. And so I've been sort of watching this story, and then WFAA came out with a great little package that's going to be a 3-part series that's right alongside with this. And they're starting in a neighborhood called Park Row, which is adjacent to Fair Park. So all the stuff we were talking about with the state fair and, the crime around it and blah, 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 it fits in perfectly with all that. So we're going to talk about this strange, concerning spike of crime in Dallas and why this is happening, what can be done about it next on the James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. So the 2 questions that we have in very important local stories like this is, number 1, why is this happening? Number 2, what can we do about it? So the why is this happening? There's nothing new. When you have millions of people in your society, there are going to be folks who fall through the cracks, and they are going to have to rely on unsavory industries for their survival, to ply their trade. And I just don't want to pull out the libertarian card on you. But when you make things illegal, you push it out into the streets. When you make things illegal, that doesn't end prostitution. That doesn't end drug doers, drug users, or drug dealers. It just means they can't do it inside of a store with, the regular conveniences and facilities of a legal business. Would you rather this happen in, a vape shop? Or would you rather this happen on the sidewalk in front of your house? So when we look at the spike in crime that's happening, a lot of people are pointing at the homicide rates, and there's been a lot of shootings, a lot of weird shootings. We had the dude that got beheaded not too long ago, and, the Frisco knife stabbing incident, and there's just all kinds of just crazy stuff that does seem to be a little bit higher than normal. And when you go run the numbers, it is a little bit, but not too crazy bad. However, I love having this conversation because if you don't diagnose the disease correctly, you're going to apply the wrong medicine. And when, the medicine can break down also into 2 parts. What do we do about the people who are rolled up into this now? And what do we do to prevent or at least minimize people being rolled up into this terrible activity in the future. So let me play a couple of cuts here. Brittany Moncrisi from WFAA is doing a 3-part series on this. And the first one, it's really good. And it just came out on, when was that, Friday? So I saw it over the weekend. I want to play a couple clips for you right here. Number one, it's so bad. And this is the neighborhood that's right next to Fair Park, where I was broadcasting on Thursday and Friday. If I walk around to where the dinosaurs are and I leave on MLK Boulevard right there, I am in the neighborhood that they're talking about. So what they've done here, they've spent some time. They've got some residents in the area to let them put up cameras. And I don't know if they're putting up just like Ring doorbell cameras or whatever, but you can tell these are little IP cameras from a distance just to monitor what goes on in that neighborhood 24 hours a day. And they were picking up all kinds of crazy stuff on video. Like, you hear about this, you read about it in the news, but for some reason, it just hits a little harder. It slaps, as the kiddos would say, when you have to watch this on video. This was some eye-opening stuff.
So we went to see for ourselves. On the first day, used condoms and alcohol bottles.
It's just evil. It's just evil.
For hours, those believed to be sex workers walked up and down the block. And even more shocking, on the second day, in broad daylight, 2 people appearing to be engaged in sexual activity right in front of us. And another day, cameras catching this even as people drove by. That's just the daytime. At night, our cameras pinging nonstop as activity picks up.
It's something that's very resolvable with just a police presence.
All right, hang on. All right, before we get into the next part, when you heard all the ding, ding, dings, it was hookers everywhere. And I'm not saying that to be demeaning or disparaging or as a pejorative, but it was just like a wave of hookers. And then there was drug dealers. And then there was the poor fellas that jump in on that. And I don't know. I found this really disturbing. Oh, Brittany Moncrief. Thank you. I mispronounced her name and I deserve that correction. Brittany Moncrief. In fact, she said it at the beginning. I don't know why I said Moncrief. Thank you, Bruce. But it was a lot. And we don't like seeing it. And the natural reaction for a lot of people, and you just heard the lady going into it, well, we just need to get some more cops in here. Okay, well, what happens if you get more cops? Are prostitutes going to stop being prostitutes? Are sketchy guys going to stop paying for sex through the services of these ladies? Or are you just going to make the life a little more harder for them? Because from whatever we've done, we haven't found a way to stop prostitutes. And no society has through 7,000 years of recorded human civilization. You can go back to the old Sumerian cuneiform tablets from 3500 BC in the ancient city of Ur, and there's hookers running around. So I know it's a distasteful industry, one that you don't participate in. I don't participate in. I would never want any of my family members to participate in it, but it exists and it's going to exist. And so now I can say, well, would you rather this happen in an illegal brothel where cops can, be called and administer justice and whatever? Or would you rather have this happening in the Buick that's parallel parked across the street from these people's house? Because this is the option we have now. I don't know what button you can hit or you can push to get rid of all the hookers and drug dealers in the world. But I do know how to take it off the street and make it a little less unsavory as it already is. Legalize it. I know that sounds crazy. Can you just not push back on me? Just try and digest this for a second. But the people's, not everyone, but the people who your reaction is, well, we just need more authority. We need more cops. Look, I get what you're saying, but when has this ever helped? And is this what's going on in the neighborhoods that don't have this?
And say they've called police repeatedly.
Other communities in Dallas will talk about response time.
Oh, no, wait. This is going to the rep. I'm going to go to the part where she talks to a city councilman, Adam.
We need the Dallas Police Department to step it up.
Dallas City Councilman Adam Bazaldua representing this area.
My residents don't want to hear excuses, especially when I have seen the difference in response times in other parts of the city.
He says it's a lack in equity, with South Dallas being majority black and brown, with higher concentrations of poverty.
I also have seen the difference in resources devoted to areas of the city where council members kiss the police's ass. And that's reality.
All right, so how about you don't say we need more cops and then you insult the cops or you insult the people? When where we have nice neighborhoods, where we don't have hookers that are just roaming the streets in a herd, basically, where we don't have a herd of drug dealers and hookers all night running through our town, is it because we have a faster response time Is it because we have more police, or is it because we don't have drug dealers and hookers? Maybe it's something beyond the color of the skin of the people in the neighborhoods that is causing them to have such a hard problem. You know what they do have in nicer neighborhoods? Dads. Yeah, I know that's very reductive, and it's not that simple. But where I grew up, in the middle of nowhere, and when I talk about being from Bucktussle, I really mean I'm from a 30-acre pasture that if you drew a triangle between Tyler, Arp, and Overton, you don't know where those other two towns are you? I lived in the middle of that, where if you called the cops, a good response time would be 45 minutes. Sometimes it'd be an hour and a half. I don't know. It just depends on if Jeff was occupied that night or if he was, cleaning up after a car wreck in Winona. Sometimes it'd be 2 hours before we had a police response. And it wasn't police response, as a sheriff's deputy because we're an unincorporated part of town. Did we have hookers and drugs? No. So response time has nothing to do with it. Sir, could you stop blaming the cops? Sure, we need more cops. I'm sure it would help a little bit. But the problem in your neighborhood is not that you have too few cops. It's that you have so many hookers and drug users. Now, why is that? Let's start answering that question. What's your answer for this? 800-288-9227. Why do some neighborhoods have hookers and drugs everywhere and some don't? Is it because of racism or police response time? Come on. So we'll continue fleshing this out. The spike of crime here recently in Dallas. What's causing it? How do we fix it? I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. So we're talking about the big crime wave that's happening, and the ones that make the news are quite concerning here. But there's also, most crime that happens doesn't make the news because it's not salacious. It's not newsworthy, but it's happening. And we're in the middle of a big debate here on the police situation in Dallas. Now, police having the appropriate amount of staffing and training and all that. Oh, yeah, super important. Please do not misunderstand that I'm diminishing the importance of policemen when it comes to public safety out there. But that's not the be-all, end-all, and I don't think that's what's driving this issue here. Yes, we passed the HERO amendments in Dallas last year, and the police are supposed to be staffed at a level higher than they are by now. And I guess they're going to get sued by the HERO folks for it, and maybe something will happen from that. But I promise you, even if we get policing up to the proper staffing levels, even if we get response times down to an acceptable level, that's not going to solve this problem. We're having a concerning run of homicides just in the last calendar month. And, these aren't some angry couple getting mad at each other. Some of these, we don't even know what the heck's going on. Like there was a triple homicide that we had reported on last week, where some guy got shot, ran off the road. When a father and adult son went to check out on the guy to make sure he was okay, they ended up dead too. What a scary story. We don't have an ending to that story. We don't have a follow-up to that story. But when you see the spikes, you got to say, well, what are we doing different now than we were doing last year? Or what is causing this spike? And so you're going to have some immediate answers to that. And when I say immediate, I mean time sensitive to something that we did in the last couple of years. But I really feel like the discussions around this are so shallow because part of the reason we're having a crime spike this year is because mistakes that were made 30 or 40 years ago. And I'm not talking about the civil rights movement. I'm not talking about something evil Ronald Reagan did. I'm talking about some people had a kid when they weren't planning to, and they weren't real studious about raising it in a biological household with their parents. And so you say, well, why is that such a big deal? Well, we have all kinds of studies on this. The number one driver, the number one predictor on whether or not someone will be a criminal, whether or not someone will be a prostitute, whether or not they'll be a drug addict, whether or not they'll be homeless. The number one predictor of that is whether or not they grew up with their dad in the house. Children brought up in single mother homes, according to studies, are 5 times more likely to commit suicide, 9 times more likely to drop out of high school, 10 times more likely to abuse chemical substances, 14 times more likely to commit rape. That's just for the boys, obviously. 20 times more likely to end up in prison, 32 times more likely to run away from home. So look, let's just take out one statistic there. 10 times more likely to abuse chemical substances. We're never going to get rid of druggies. We're never going to get rid of drug dealers. We can bomb all the cartel boats we want to. Hunter Biden's still getting high tonight. But we can reduce it by 90% if we just go back and re-embrace the nuclear family. If a child brought up in a single mother household is 10 times more likely to abuse chemical substances, what would happen if we, instead of focusing on police response time or staffing levels, we focused on dad staffing levels? We focused on how do we end up with as few single mother households as possible? How do we end up with as many dads participating in the rearing of their children as possible? And the closer you can get that number to 100%, the closer you can get the druggie number down 90%. So that's just one of them. And then we talk about, you can talk about trying to keep them out of the gutter, trying to keep them off drugs, trying to keep them out from under a bridge doing crack, or trying to keep them off the streets, turning tricks for money. There's also the positive incentives. 35% of boys with a present biological father obtain a college degree. The ones who don't, just 14%. So it's a total seesaw effect. Not only will it keep you out of the gutter, it can catapult you up the class ranks, where you can go from poor to middle class, or you can go from middle class to upper class, or you can go from upper class to the 1%. Who knows? But you have a much greater chance of doing so and avoiding all the foibles of human existence if you just have a dad. And so while I appreciate the rundown that WFAA is doing, the attention that they're getting, the info that they're bringing to my face, the video that I've never seen before that absolutely shocks me, until we start bringing dads into the discussion. And it's not just dads. It's the nuclear family. Who does that? Who supports the nuclear family? Who wants you to be monogamous? Who wants you to not be promiscuous until you get married? Who wants you to wait until you get married to even risk having a child? Oh, that sounds like a very Christian thing. Christian? Well, that's weird. Well, who celebrates the family and has all kinds of family activities for every event that's ever coming up? Who talks about family constantly? That would be the Christians. What percentage of the hookers walking the street and the drug dealers burning a rock right now, what percentage of them were in church on Sunday? I mean, it's probably not zero, but it's got to be close. You know, at some point when we have these conversations, you will notice we are on the right track. When it's just one of the 18 bullet points that people bring it up on why is this happening and what can we do about it and how can we solve this problem and how can we make a better future? If you're not including the discussion on family and religion, then you're missing most of the discussion. It's like if you have a lesion on your face, and it won't ever heal. You have this scab that's on your temple, and it won't ever heal. Well, it's because you have cancer. Well, let's just put a Band-Aid on it. It's never going to get rid of the lesion. It will cover up the lesion, but you're still going to die from cancer. And until you go address the root cause, you're never going to get rid of the lesion. Maybe we can attack the cancer and minimize the lesion or get rid of it altogether. But that's how I feel about these crime discussions. You're going to have to bring up Jesus, and you're going to have to bring up your dad at some point. At some point, it's not the cops' fault. It's not white people's fault. It's not rich people's fault. It's your dad's fault. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. Now, if your bunker is almost out of freeze-dried food, we'll have survival tips for the apocalyptic shutdown of 2025 coming up next on The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP.
The James Show Podcast.